In this video, I'm going to brainstorm about a personal need of my own that I suspect many media creators share. The issue is this: in the creation of various media, it's awkward, space-consuming, and sometimes quite frustrating to set up cameras so as to, in one go, capture a room in a way that requires minimal camera handling. Now, the first need is an all-room gimbal. And so I'm going to start by defining the room. And in a documentary, particularly an interesting documentary that goes beyond talking heads, you have movement within the room. And so the first element is a gimbal. Now, what this gimbal does is it first of all swivels 360 degrees, and it does this with a basic scissor design, which is equivalent to the scissor design of the traditional office desk lamps with the springs, only without the springs. Now, this mount can come in a universal format in which A, it can attach to a rafter if configured to do so. B, it can be bolted to sheetrock if configured to do so. C, it can be adhered with a sticker, though this would be the least desirable given my experience with adhesion. And D, configurable with a suction cup, which might be beneficial for a glass application in which this gimbal was pivoted 90 degrees. Now, while this may be made of a strong steel material here, the arms of the gimbal are made of extendable aluminum. And so this is similar to a vertical tripod design where you open a clip and extend it. And this is pretty much a one-time setting to get the appropriate distance for your room. At full scissor extension, this should be able to pivot around and reach every corner. Now, this is handling the horizontal range of the gimbal or the boom. The next element is, because now this can swivel 360 degrees here and 180 degrees here, which means that this gimbal is able to bring a camera to every corner at the top of the ceiling. Now, the next important area, and I'm going to bring it over here in order to demonstrate, is the vertical extension that goes on at the end. Now, this can be a separate piece that is ordered separately, because not everyone requires it. But this is quite possibly a mechanism that adapts a standard scissor desk lamp to adjust the vertical height of the camera and or microphone. And a good, just to give a sense of how necessary this is, I've been trapped into mediocrity by, just in the last few moments. I've got someone coming out of the shower, a flock of geese coming off, my dog barking in the truck, then the wind picks up. This is a nightmare in media quality. And this nightmare constrains an enormous amount of pleasing communication to a point where it either does not exist at all, because I'm not going to rush off home, hire a film studio, clear the house, unplug all the phones, or it exists in a mediocre form in which I have no idea what it's like to be the witness with wind blowing in the microphone, etc., etc., etc. Now, this scissor arm of the desk lamp, these all have friction joints where it takes a certain amount of friction. They're silent. They are aluminum. And so you have an extension here, you have an extension here. And so this can pivot down, to this point here. Now at the end of this, you have a combination of multiple things, which can also be mounted anywhere along here. So anywhere along here, you can plug in. So we've got lights. We've got umbrella diffusers. We've got a whole room microphone, and then we've got the more specific microphone. And this, my thought is that at the end of here, we have a face tracking gimbal that is lighter than most gimbals, in which you've got to store the battery. Now, one of the things that I think is important, given power needs, is that this has a plug up here that can go into either 240 or 110 voltage, and that the wiring is just nicely integrated along here. It's not high band, it's not high wattage wiring. But what we want to end up with is this actually brings me to a new idea here as we've divided this. We want to end up with one or two different pivoting arms. And I actually think that the two pivoting arms is a key feature, and that we've got, if we do a good job securing this, we can have literally two independent cameras, a close-up and a farther away, one that's fixed position and one that is face tracking or motion tracking. And the key is to bring this entire system down to around $400 as opposed to tens of thousands of dollars, because this is the point when it becomes highly useful for almost anyone in media production. It's the point at which I would buy it in a heartbeat, making media that I have no idea will ever make any money, which has to be the supposition for most media creators, given the fact that 99% of all personally made media does not make any money. So, so if we have two layers to this system where one can go this way or swivel around in between, and we separate the vertical swivel from the horizontal swivel on a central pivot point, both having access to power in an integrated wire with a port at the midway point, at the elbow of the area here, and a port at the end point, and a port at the end point here. These three ports will provide the electricity needed for lights, for cameras, for microphones, and the beauty being that the entire room can be an ordinary room and turn into a media room at a drop of a hat. A living room can be a family playroom 80% of the time and make a Playhouse documentary 10% of the time. A greenhouse or a sunroom can be a family sunroom and a garden documentary location 10% of the time. A schoolroom can be a schoolroom and a classroom presentation media center a third of the time. Now, the trick that I see is that this has to come with a kit which could be so we've got the center. I think we would sell it in units or as a complete kit. So we, both. So we have the mount and horizontal swivel. I think that can be sold for around $109 because we've got nothing but a flexible multi-oriented bracket that can be assembled in several different ways, and a large scissor arm with aluminum, and you basically undo the clip and slide this out to the right amount, and then undo the clip and slide this out to the right amount. It's very compact. It can be transferred quite easily, and that could actually be an additional feature, that the arm can be removed from this mount so that you could actually take the whole system into another room and just have $30 for this mount, and be able to pack these swivel arms anywhere you want to go quite easily. so we have this mount, we have the scissors here, we have the scissors here, and then I think we need some adaptive technology that is not too professional, meaning we're not trying to drive the cost up and have this be perfect. But in the event that we want to really load down this arm here beyond the capacity that these scissor arms can comfortably handle, we might have a couple of different eyes. An eye bolt threads in like so and has an eye right here. And by sticking an eye in the ceiling here and looping down and around and having another eye, over here and being able to loop down and around, and having that on a bungee cord or a Velcro strap, it's quite possible to move the main arm relatively in position and load this down with up to 20 pounds of weight as opposed to just 1 or 2 pounds in the case of an iPhone camera. Being able to add a couple of eye bolts and a video. See, this is a very community-oriented non-profit venture, and that makes it fun. It makes it highly adaptable. People can make videos on different ways to do things and share them with one another. Now, this bolt, I think, is quite an important bolt for determining height. And again, we might have a clasp option here with an optional Velcro strap if what's put on the final weight, let's say this is pivoted out here and the camera is right here, and it's just too strong for this bolt to hold this in place. A Velcro strap that's right here could make all the difference in being able to just unfurl and connect around here. I think at this point where we would leave it is having a multi-gadget right here that allows for 2 different camera hookups, and perhaps a hot shoe hookup up here, and several options to tilt and pivot this whole platform, or 2 parts of the platform, such that we could have one camera zoomed in close, perhaps following a face, and one camera that's zoomed further back. I think having up to 3 cameras would be beneficial, particularly when we get into the lower cost of roughly $100 4K cameras. Having 3 cameras running in tandem, I think makes it an incredibly easy documentary to edit, getting all your close shots on 2 faces as well as a whole room shot, and having either 2 ports for microphones coming from here. Wireless would be one option, wired would be another, and one thing that I think is also valuable is being able to have the microphones descend. For example, let's say the camera is over here, but the people are down here. You can run a wired microphone from the camera and drop it down closer to the faces in a way that you don't have to be wearing a microphone, which is a bit of a bother. And I would say the final thing is that I've been getting value out of a telescoping microphone, which is a little bit like a selfie, it's a little bit like a selfie antenna that telescopes, where you can plug the selfie point into a bracket and then telescope. So for example, the camera might be here, and then a wire might come up to here, and then this might be angled out over here, and then the microphone drops down here. And this just makes a world of difference in easy documenting. So this is the idea for how, in a matter of less than 2 minutes, all of this stuff can be kept up at around 8 feet to 10 feet in height, largely out of view, where you can integrate certain things like remotes or motion detecting if you want to have a documentary that is, anytime someone's in the room, it's kind of documenting what's going on in the house. And if you want to, while you're in that, bring the documentary into a specific detail, you just grab a handhold and swivel the camera down into a close-up. I'm very excited to see something like this happen.